Welcome to version 24.2 for Sage 100 Contractor, Part 2. Watch this video for highlights of payroll changes and enhancements included in the 24.2 software release. There are new enhancements to the 522 payroll record. Under the Options menu, an added menu selection is Default Overtime over 40 hours per week. After you select this option, if the employee is a weekly or biweekly employee, the date on the time card line falls within the pay period, and the employee is not exempt from overtime, Sage 100 Contractor calculates the hours already entered for the week. After the total for the week is over 40, the pay type defaults to overtime. In the 521 Employees window, when you select cells in the grid on the Calculations tab, the sum of the selected cells is displayed in the lower right of the tab. This feature is already available in several other grids of the program. With this update, it is now possible to keep payroll records for multiple years in your current company instead of archiving them at the end of each year. Until now, you had to archive payroll for the previous year before you could start recording payroll for a new year. That option is still available. You now have another option to close a payroll year without archiving records. This is done through the 538 Close Payroll Year window. Closing payroll using 538 does not create a separate database for the payroll records. The records stay in the current company. Using the new method, the employee's year-to-date and quarter-to-date totals are reset. The employee's carry-forward amounts are updated. In the U.S. edition, the Affordable Care Act records are created for the next year. The first pay period paid in the current year ended settings are updated in 566 time entry settings, and the program advances the current payroll year. Before you close a payroll year, make sure all payroll records are complete. Here are some steps to make sure payroll is ready to close. Process and post all payroll for the year end. The date of the check, not the date of the work, determines which year the payroll record affects. Run 537 payroll repair to make sure all totals are accurate and there are no audit errors. Reconcile any audit errors. The audit report is informational and will not prevent you from closing or archiving payroll. Close payroll in 538. Your computer system date must be in December of the payroll year you are closing or the new year. You still need to close a payroll year before you begin entering records for the new year. Closing a year does not remove records. Also, closing the payroll year is a much simpler, less time-consuming process than archiving, which can help alleviate pressure at year end. Keeping multiple years of payroll records with your current company enables you to run payroll reports and process any final adjustments for the previous year without having to switch to an archived company. This is especially helpful for workers' comp reports that need to span more than one calendar year. Some reports have an additional selection box for prior year. Selecting prior year generates the report for the immediately preceding year. If you don't select Include Prior Years, the report selects information only from the current year. Although payroll records from previous years can now coexist in your database with current payroll, records older than the immediately preceding payroll year are read-only. To help prevent accidentally changing payroll records to a different year, you must be logged in with administrator rights and payroll admin rights to change the year of a payroll record. When you change the year for a check date, all totals are updated. It is critical to have an accurate check date in a multi-year payroll system. The check date determines whether to update the employee's past year or current year totals. Payroll reports that are now available with multi-year options are the State Quarterly Wage Report, State Quarterly Wage Report for single state employers, Quarterly Earnings, sick days earned and used, vacation hours earned and used, and absence hours and wages. You may notice the selection criteria for the 51891 report no longer includes quarter number, because the quarter number is the same for multi-year records. Instead, the selection criteria is now check date to restrict the report to data from a single quarter from a single year. You can now archive payroll when it's convenient. It is no longer necessary to archive before starting a new payroll year. To begin archiving, make sure all payroll is posted for the year you are archiving. Run 537 Payroll Repair to make sure all totals are accurate and there are no audit errors. Reconcile any payroll records on the audit report. If you have closed payroll for the year you are archiving, you have already completed these 3 steps. Open Database Administration and archive your payroll. This removes the payroll records from your current company, but leaves the associated general ledger transactions. It is important to note you do not need to close payroll in 538 prior to archiving. Archiving will close payroll during the archive process if needed. Because you can now work with last year's payroll in the current data, you may need to audit and repair last year's payroll from time to time. The 537 Payroll Audit window includes a new Audit Repair Payroll for the Prior Year option, where X's represent the prior year. This option is available if payroll has been closed at least once using version 24.2, there are payroll records with check dates that precede the current payroll year, payroll was closed for the prior year, and the year that is displayed immediately precedes the current payroll year. The audit and repair functions determine whether the records are from the current payroll year or the immediately preceding year, and examines only payroll records with check dates for the year being audited. This is an example of the 537 Payroll Audit window without a previous closed year payroll. This is an example of the 537 Payroll Audit window that has a previous closed year payroll. Notice a selection box is available to audit or repair the prior year payroll. We've outlined important steps of year-end payroll. Process all payroll prior to closing or archiving. Do not install the update until all payroll is processed, and do not enter the new year payroll until the former year payroll is closed or archived. For additional assistance with year-end tasks, please visit sagecity.com Year-End Center for 100 Contractor. You will find training, updates, checklists, and frequently asked questions to help with year-end. Visit sage.com resources anytime to access all resources available to you from one convenient site.